Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the September 6th meeting of the Town Council of the Town of Southern Shores. If everyone would please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. I would like to ask everyone to join me in a short moment of silence, please. Thank you. Council, we have an agenda in front of us. We need either to have a motion to amend or a motion to approve.
I move that we approve the agenda as presented.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much. We have an approved agenda. Council, we have a pretty heavy consent agenda. Lots of different things on there, including minutes, budget amendments, reappointment, tourism board, access channel, attendance policy, proclamation, and resolution. Does anyone have a problem making a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented?
I move that we approve it as presented.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion about anything? Seeing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much. Consent agenda is approved. This is the time we normally have general public comment. If anyone has signed up, we'd love to hear from you.
Let's do one.
If you'll just come to the front and tell us your name, where you live.
Len Schmitz. I live at 184 Wax Myrtle, permanent resident since 2019.
Is your microphone on, Lynn?
Hello.
Is it? It is. Okay,
I'm
there
sorry.
it is.
You need to get a little
Okay.
closer to it,
I,
because I couldn't hear you.
I'm just here to say your resolution to lower the speed limit to 35 miles an hour may be reconsidered. I'm thinking if you lower the speed limit to 35, that's going to allow golf carts on Route 12. And I don't think that's a good idea. And anybody who's been up to Duck, see people riding the golf carts, they don't wear seat belts, they hold their kids in their arms, nothing like that. And I think it's a safety hazard. I think the 40-mile-an-hour option would be better. That's it.
Thank you, Lynn. Appreciate it. Anyone else wish to make a public comment at this time? No one signed up? No one is nodding in affirmative, so we will move on to our staff reports. First, we'd like to have our Deputy Town Manager and Planning Director, Wes Haskett. Good evening, Wes.
Good evening, Mayor. Thank you. And good evening, members of council. I wasn't able to join you all last month, so I've got permit numbers from July as well as August and some other information. With respect to July's permits, there were a total of 31 that were issued that consisted of 9 zoning permits, 9 building permits, 12 trade permits, and 1 lot disturbance stormwater management permit. The total amount of fees that was collected in July was $32,298.45. $22,574.25 of that was from the building permit and zoning permit for the Rack Room Shoes and Marshalls at the Marketplace that's currently under construction. With respect to July code enforcement, there were 9 warning citations mailed for solid waste ordinance violations. For August permits, there were a total of 60 permits issued that consisted of 10 zoning permits, 26 building permits, 21 trade permits, and 3 lot disturbance stormwater management permits. Total amount of fees collected in August was $21,996.50. And with respect to code enforcement in August, there were 33 warning citations mailed for solid waste ordinance violations. Since you all adopted the amendments to the solid waste ordinance in April, a total of 63 warning citations have been mailed since May. With respect to the land use plan update, we've executed the contract with Stewart, the consultant that you all selected. That was executed on August 23rd, and we will be scheduling the administrative kickoff meeting soon, either late this week or early to mid next week. With respect to the town planning board, they'll be meeting on September 19th at 5 o'clock here in the Pitt Center. They will be considering ZTA-22-10, which is a ZTA submitted by the town to amend section 36-207C11, which addresses mixed-use group development of commercial and residential buildings. The board may consider ZTA 2208. This was the application submitted by Casey Varnell on behalf of Pleasure Palace months ago to amend sections 36-57, 207B, and 209A. We have not heard confirmation yet as to whether or not they want to move forward at this meeting. They've got a few items to address that they feel they need to address before coming before the board. And lastly, the board may consider ZTA 2108 regulations governing signs. The Historic Landmarks Commission, they have not met in some time. We have received an application for a certificate of appropriateness for them to consider. So if all goes well, they'll be meeting on September 27th at 9 o'clock here in the Pitt Center. And it's a certificate of appropriateness application submitted by Courtney Clements to construct an outdoor shower and storage structure at 23 Porpoise Run. 23 Porpoise Run was the first landmark I believe we had designated in the town when we established the program. Any questions from y'all?
I just had one. The 26 building permits in August, were those for residences or that seems like a big number?
For new construction, I don't have it broken out, but typically the lot disturbance stormwater management permits are associated with new construction. I can contact you later or tomorrow, let you know what the number was, but it wasn't 26 new constructions. It's 26 building permits total. So that could be for remodel, addition, accessory, or new construction.
Okay.
But if you like, I can start breaking out new
That's all right.
construction.
Just
going
seemed like a
forward.
bigger number than usual.
Right.
Wes, I was going to ask, has the town heard any issues with the, all the activity at Marketplace? In terms of, the demolition activity and now the construction activity? Have we heard any complaints or issues or?
There were a couple complaints initially when the demolition it wasn't too far into the process. Our building inspector, Kevin Clark, has done a good job up to this point and meeting with the contractors and everyone, but he did a very good job of making sure a specific plan was in place as to the fencing that's around the perimeter, the height of the fence, the locations of it, the gates. He's had to get on the contractor a couple of times for leaving the gates open. It's not as much of an issue now, but I know earlier on there were some complaints, some folks. I think there was one altercation where the police department was called. It involved someone going into the area, but I haven't heard of anything recently. Ever since that's the only altercation I've heard about. But
Is there anything in their process that allows for like an update from them in terms of the progress they're making? Is there any interaction between the town and, I'm just curious, do they notify you of anything in terms of just when they want to pull another permit?
Right. Yes, ma'am. No, there aren't any requirements in place for them to tell us that they're at 40 or 50%
Yeah.
or what have you, but we can certainly request it at any time.
I just was curious.
Going forward in monthly reports, I can bring up, highlight some information if there's anything noteworthy that's going on. I can do that for
It's
you.
up to you. That'd be great.
That'd
Sure.
be great.
Thanks so much.
Yes, ma'am.
Anybody else? Questions for Wes? Concerns? Anything?
The summons or the complaints you've had to file on the trash collection, has that been any specific area or is it spread around?
Mostly Ocean Boulevard and Duck Road.
Okay.
Yes, sir. We've had some on Hillcrest and Wax Myrtle, a couple on South Dogwood, but the majority have been on Ocean Boulevard and Duck Road.
And some of, well, I know one I pick up periodically they apparently refuse to put a wheel on the container. And then as a result, it tips over quickly and doesn't get picked up.
Right, yes, sir. That was part of the amendments to the ordinance as well, is they've got to have fully functional wheels. So let me
Yeah.
know where that's at and we can take a look.
Well, I won't see them till Monday now. Maybe there'll be one there Friday with recycles. But it tips over quickly.
Thank you, Wes.
Yes, ma'am.
Appreciate it very much.
Thank you.
Next, we'll hear from our police chief, Chief Cole.
Evening, Mayor, members of council. The Police Department monthly report for August 2022. As you can see, we had 14 incidents which were actually the reported crimes for a total of 25 offenses. We had 8 criminal arrests for a total of 17 charges in all. The officers conducted 68 traffic stops, and out of that, the results were 14 written citations, 21 charges, and another 43 warning citations for a total of 50 charges. The local ordinances, we had 81. That'll start slowing down now because our SRO is only going to be on for a couple more weekends. For a total of 81 charges. Most of those were found to display their parking permit. And we had 4 reportable motor vehicle accidents for the month of August. Calls for service, a total was 1,567. And last year, to compare it to, was 1,567. Weird. And I triple checked that with our secretary, and she says, yeah, that's right.
Nobody was playing with the numbers.
Yeah, so. Other than that, any questions?
Yeah, Chief, when a sexual assault does not result in an arrest, which it looks like this one didn't, and I know you can't go into details, but can you tell us the scenario under which that would happen?
Yeah, this particular one actually was reported to us, but it actually happened in Elizabeth City. So it was taken over and transferred to Elizabeth City. Yes, so usually if you don't see an arrest or something like that, it's either an ongoing investigation or in many cases, it's unfounded. But this particular one, it was once we got into it and found out that actually everything had actually occurred over in their city.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. We'll hear from our fire chief, Ed Limbacher. Good evening, Ed.
Council. So the fire department report for the month of August. One structure fire this month, which I thought was worth noting, was on Duckwoods in a lightning strike, and it was an odd one because it found the gas line and went up into the crawl space and started the floor joists on fire. So pretty tenacious investigation. The guys were very well thought out, very meticulous on how they found it. And thank God they were that tenacious, because you would have been back there several hours later and the house would have been ablaze. So good job with those guys. And at the same time, while they run that call, 3 houses up, they had a lightning strike with no fire that blew out the guy's sprinkler system controls. So you could see the arcing and stuff there. So kind of odd, just worth noting, but those things do happen, I guess. So for the rest of the month, 1 brush fire, 47 EMS calls, 1 motor vehicle accident with injuries, 1 water rescue, which basically amounted to the husband and the kids not being back on time, and the wife got a little nervous. They made a capsize, but they were fine. So wheelchair program, 6 wheelchairs for the month. Public service 1. Dispatched en route, but canceled 2. 1 hazmat release with no release, which was basically a gas leak that we could not find anything. 9 alarms, including 1 CO alarm, which was at Kitty Hawk Elementary. And then the lightning strike I discussed, 2 houses up from the actual fire on Duckwoods. So any questions on that? In comparison, we were 9 calls behind last year, so 81 for last year, same month. Any questions?
Anybody have any
No.
questions for Ed?
Good job.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Always learn something every time you report to us, something odd. Next, we'll hear from our town manager, Cliff Ogburn. Good evening, Cliff.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you. Just 3 things to report on tonight. First, I wanted to let you know that the Gene Gite Stormwater Project is out to bid. The bid period began on August 25th. It'll close on September 29th. We'll open the bids on that day at 10 a.m. at Town Hall. There's a mandatory pre-bid conference will be held on site at 19 Gene Gite Trail on this Thursday at 10 o'clock. The project's on our website. It's been sent to multiple bidders. We're hopeful and anxious to get the bids in so we can get that project started. As you know, primarily it'll try and lower the groundwater so it can create some capacity in storms. But that project hopefully will get started sometime in October or November. I wanted to talk about beach nourishment. It is getting a little bit closer. The latest schedule that was put out had the project starting in Southern Shores October the 2nd, 43 days estimated of pumping would end on November the 14th. But I learned today that Weeks is considering moving. There's 3 sublines in Southern Shores. The first one's at about 60 Ocean Boulevard. Weeks is considering going ahead and starting in the next couple of weeks at that subline. And right now they've got 1 crew working, 2 dredges working, but 1 crew. Both dredges are discharging at the same discharge pipe, but they've considering moving a 2nd crew up to about 60 Ocean Boulevard and then working their way south. Hopefully we'll know that this week, but if that's the case, then we could see sand start pumping here in the next couple of weeks.
That'd be good.
Let's see, right now that the subline, I think the one closest to us that they would be working from is about 3,000 feet south into Kitty Hawk near Maynard Street. And I'll also wanted to mention the public input meetings. There's, as I've told you before, bi-weekly, there's a meeting at 11:30 with all the agency folks. And then at 1:30, there's a public meeting that folks can either tune into online or they can come in person. The way the timing works out, if our project had started October 2nd, that first meeting, public meeting, wouldn't be until October 12th. So we'd be well into the project then. So what we'll do is we'll probably encourage folks to maybe tune into the Kitty Hawk meeting, and there can be some more at the last one of those. The meetings are scheduled from here on September 14th, September 28th, and October 12th. And just so you know, the project, the construction deadline is December 31st. And right now they are scheduled working right up to December the 12th in Duck. So they're
Assuming we don't
pushing
have any bad weather.
right. And then lastly, I wanted to just briefly mention the paving project that we just went through. It's obviously substantially complete. They started August 1st. The original schedule, they were going to run until about October the 14th. But as they got into it, they decided that they were just going to continue to get this done as quickly as they could. And so they finished, I think, predominantly finished August 26th. There's still some punch list items that need to be taken care of. And we're still waiting to hear the quantities, the unit price, the way this was bid, everything's done by quantity and unit price. So we're still waiting to find out what those costs are going to be. Ideally, there'll be enough, and as sure as I say this, I'll jinx it, but ideally there'd be enough savings to go ahead and overlay mizzen mast and Turtle Pond. One of the takeaways from this is that partly because it's such a tight radius that they're working in and the patching that's done there, it leaves very little that's not been touched. And so it doesn't make sense to leave it that way. So hopefully there's enough to go ahead and overlay those two cul-de-sacs. It'd be just a thin overlay. I think would make a huge difference. So hopefully we can get that done. Let's see, the overlay work that was done on Hickory, Chickahawk, and Soundview, I think that's the look that we're going for. The patching that was done is in advance. Usually the worst spots in the road, the patching is done in advance of that overlay. But that's what we got to hang on for, is to get those overlays done. And another takeaway is because, you know, the thing everyone asks is, why'd you stop here? You got a patch here, and then you can look and see, why didn't you do that? And it's a matter of, there's a dollar amount in the budget, and you have to kind of stay within that. But because some of these patches are so close, again, I think it probably makes sense to overlay those patches when they're that close. I think the example on Hillcrest is what we see when we have a whole bunch of patches in a short distance. We ought to just go ahead and overlay those. But again, that's those three are really the look we're going for. The smaller patches on the avenues, that may be something our public works crew could do. But again, if we're going to, if you're going to mobilize and go to one of the avenues to fill those patches, it may make sense to go ahead and do more than just 3 or 4 patches on that stretch of road. That's another takeaway. The year 2 is actually this year. As you know, what we just finished was carryover from last year. The year 2 of this project it's almost all overlays, 2-inch mill and fill overlays. So I think at some point, I think we need to go ahead and do this year 2. And this is something that I think we'll have to talk about. There's only one section of road that's patched, and that's called to be patched. We can adjust these projects as we need to. It's kind of our project to work from here. Of course, whatever we do to adjust in the second year could have an impact in years 7, 8, or 9. So we have to be cognizant of that. But I do think we should go ahead and do year 2. It'll give us some time to evaluate the patches that we've done to see whether or not they're holding up like we're told they will be. There's $1 million in this year's budget. The year 2 doesn't call for that much work, so we have the ability to do some other projects. And the mill and fill, I think we'll get more than one bid. We only got one bid for this, but the mill and fill is more attractive work for some of the bidders. So I do think we'll see more of that. And the other thing, another big takeaway from us was on the narrow streets that are heavily traveled, like South Dogwood, we need to either build up those shoulders in advance, or we need to spec that in the project. So having said all that, it was the first year we knew, we told folks it was going to be a patchwork quilt. But now that we see it, I think we need to adjust to make those changes so that it would be at least more attractive and more palatable. The other big takeaway for me was the exposed aggregate. That aggregate is put in place in advance of the overlay. It's there for the structure and the support in advance of that overlay being done. That you may look at it and think, why isn't that smoother? Why isn't that neater? Why isn't that cleaner? Well, it's serving a purpose, and that is, again, the glue before we can get the overlay done. So I think at your mid-month September meeting, we'd like to get a little bit more discussion on what we're going to do moving forward. And by then, hopefully, I'll have the numbers to round out what we've got left. Any questions?
Very good. Any questions for Cliff?
And just
I've just got one. On the, back to the beach nourishment update, do the oceanfront homeowners get any heads up that when this is going to start, or does the equipment just show up? I know we've all had a big heads up that it's going to start, but do we stick it on the website?
We will. Yeah, as soon as we'll start, hopefully this week, I'll have a better idea of whether or not they're sticking to the October 2nd date, or whether or not we could see them to start mobilize sooner. And we'll start to advertise pretty hard and try to communicate as best we can,
Okay.
as much as we can, what's going on. And remember, we'll have that map that we can direct people to that'll show where the construction area is, what direction they're going, how fast they're moving. They haven't had too many days of 2 dredges working at full capacity. Hopefully by the time they get to us, they will, and they'll cover some ground pretty quickly.
Anybody else have questions for Cliff?
Well, just a comment on the road and the patching. What I was hearing is that most people thought we hadn't finished the job. And I think you heard that as well.
Yeah, multiple times.
Yeah.
But we're coming back.
It's
Might be a
Yeah.
few years, but
Yeah.
doing things a little different. Everybody has to
Oh, yeah, you
take a
know,
little time to get used to it.
yeah, but change is tough for some people.
Change is hard.
But I went and looked at all of them, so I'm familiar what they look like. But I will say the corner at Crooked-Back in Chickahawk looks very good.
that's the look we're going for.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the mill and fill with the overlay obviously is
What-
what everybody
Direction.
likes. I mean, Hickory looks great, and wherever we did it in front of the
Yeah.
Country Club on South Dogwood
Yeah.
looks really good. So we'll get there one day.
Thank you.
Thanks, Cliff. Would our town attorney like to speak to us this
Well, I
evening?
do
Good
have
evening,
one
Philip.
thing to report. Those 2 CAMA permits that were issued back in 2018 to Saga for development for the sites located at 98 and 134 Ocean Boulevard. Those were appealed to an administrative law judge who affirmed the local CAMA permit officer's permit. The petitioners then appealed that to the next level of appeal, which is to Wake County Superior Court. And Judge Rebecca Holt, holding court in Wake County, issued her opinion on June 19th, affirming both the administrative law judge and the original permits issued by the local officer. They had 30 days to appeal that decision to the Court of Appeals, and that deadline ran on August 18th, 2022 with no appeal. And so those permits can be issued and are now filed.
Good.
Very good. Just, I guess we'll probably ask you this every month. On the brief
The am-
filed for the Mid-Currituck Bridge, do we even know if a panel of judges has been decided upon
You will
yet?
not find out who that panel is.
You won't even
until
find
you
out
get a notice. You'll either get a notice of oral argument, more likely you'll get a notice of decision without oral argument.
Gotcha.
And either of those, they'll tell you who your panel's going to be.
Okay,
And when I get that notice, we'll let you know.
Okay.
It may come to Ben, actually, but it should come to our office.
Okay.
So,
thank you.
Yep, sure.
All right, moving right along to old business, which there is nothing on the agenda, and then now new business. We have a public hearing. PSP-22-01, and I'm going to ask our attorney, Philip Hornthal, to conduct a public hearing.
Yes, ma'am. At this time, we'll open the public hearing for PSP-22-01, which is a preliminary subdivision plat submitted by Matthew Casella to subdivide the property located at 267 Hillcrest Drive. And we'll begin with the staff report provided by Planning Director Wes Haskett.
Thank you, sir. The next item on your agenda, as noted, is PSP 2201. And it's a preliminary subdivision plat consideration. Applicant is Matthew and Allison Casella, location 267 Hillcrest Drive. The zoning of the property is RS1, single-family residential. The surrounding land use and zoning is north, south, east, west, all residential, RS1, single-family residential zoning district. Physical characteristics of the lot as it is situated today is developed. There's one house on this one large lot. Applicable regulations to this application are Chapter 30 subdivision and Chapter 36 town zoning ordinance, Article 3 interpretation and definition of terms, Article 4 application of regulations, and Article 7 schedule of district regulations. The subdivision ordinance establishes a review process for subdivisions that requires town council approval of all preliminary and final subdivision plats, except for exempted subdivisions. The applicant in this case is requesting to subdivide the lot located at 267 Hillcrest Drive into two new lots. The existing single-family dwelling and other improvements currently situated at 267 Hillcrest Drive are proposed to be located on new Lot 1B with a lot size of 70,360 square feet, and the remaining property is proposed to be located on new Lot 1A with a lot size of 52,016 square feet. Both lots, as proposed, meet the town's minimum lot size requirement of 20,000 square feet and the lot width of 100 feet. Both lots also meet the town's frontage requirement by providing at least 30 feet of frontage that abuts a public right-of-way or private street, in this case, Hillcrest Drive. Town staff recommends approval of the preliminary plat with conditions, the following conditions: that the exemption certificate shown on the preliminary plat shall be deleted. A certificate of approval by the planning board shall be added to the final plat, and a certificate of approval by the town council shall be added to the final plat. Should you all approve this preliminary plat tonight, it'll have to come back before you all as the final plat after it goes to the planning board. The town planning board, they've already reviewed the preliminary plat at their August 15th meeting, and they approved it with the conditions 1 through 3 that I just noted. That concludes my staff report, Mr. Hornthal. If there are any questions from council.
Any questions from council?
Pretty straightforward.
If the applicant is here and would like to speak, you're free to do so, but you're not required to do so. Do we have anyone that signed up to give public comment? Is there anyone here wishing to give public comment? Hearing none. at this time-
Did you want to speak, Mr. Casella? You're here. You're take a pass? No worries. Thanks for coming tonight.
That's what he said at the planning board.
That's what he said at the planning board meeting.
Yeah, you're not getting double speak. You did fine.
I thought you did fine as well.
Yeah, you did really well.
Sorry, Philip.
It's okay. If there are no people here to give comment, I will close the public hearing at this time.
Thank you very much. Council, anybody want to discuss the PSP 2201?
I'll make a motion.
Okay,
We'll make a motion that we approve PSP 22-01 with the above conditions, that the exemption certificate shown on the preliminary plat shall be deleted, certificate of approval by the planning board shall be added to the final plat, and the certificate of approval by the town council shall be added to the final plat.
I'll second it.
council, we have a motion and a second. Do you want to have any further discussion?
The only question that was in the planning board was the well there, if that was a functional well.
Mhm.
I see it here, but I don't know if it's functional or any indication.
I'm gonna work with the mechanic. I've got to actually find the well mechanic who can come look at it for me. I don't have an answer for you yet. but it's
Okay.
something I'm working on.
Yeah, this doesn't really involve the approval, but I know that was a question that was asked.
Yes, sir. Yeah, appreciate that.
Thank you.
I mean, I don't have any discussion, but it seems like it meets all the requirements that we've set out. So I can't see any grounds to really reject it. And I've talked to some homeowners in the area and they agree. So,
Very good. The result is 2 very large lots that meet all of our requirements, so I agree. No further discussion. We'll go ahead and take a vote. All those in favor of the motion as that's on the table, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay. Now, turn it back over to our attorney for public hearing ZTA-22-09.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This time we'll open the public hearing for ZTA-22-09, a zoning text amendment application submitted by Mila Smith to amend Town Code Sections 36-163 and 36-207B3. And we will begin with the staff report provided by Planning Director Wes Haskell.
Thank you, sir. The next application is ZTA-2209. The applicant is Mila Smith, and she's requesting to amend 36-163 off-street parking requirements and 207B3 service establishments. The applicant is proposing this ZTA to allow group fitness, aerobics, dance, martial arts, yoga, gym, and/or weight training as a permitted use in the C General Commercial District. The proposed amendments to Section 36-207B3 establish the proposed use, which would allow various group fitness service establishments. The proposed amendments to Section 36-163 established the parking requirement for 250 square feet of gross floor space. As a permitted use, such establishments could be approved administratively if they are proposed to be located in an existing building and a site plan is not required. If a site plan is required, it would have to be reviewed by the planning board and the town council. Town staff found that policy 2 is applicable to the ZTA. Town staff determined that it's consistent with the town's currently adopted land use plan, and town staff recommends approval of the proposed ZTA. The town planning board unanimously 6-0 recommended approval of the application at the August 15, 2022 meeting.
Any questions of the Planning Director?
Where did the 250 come from, the square feet of parking?
So this use, this category actually mostly came from Nags Head. They combined several different physical fitness activities into one. And I think their use was actually, their parking requirement was 300, but I chose 250, or recommended, suggested 250 rather.
Incremental. Is there any problem with 300?
I wouldn't have any objections to it. I don't know if the applicant, I doubt they would either. If you look in our current requirements, we have some that are based on 300 square feet. We have some that are based on 250. I mean,
What type of use it takes 300?
I don't recall. I know it's in there, but I don't remember exactly
I don't
which
need to
one.
monkey it. I just,
It might be just general. I don't recall.
Does the applicant have a facility in mind that this would go into?
I believe she did. She's here. She's present tonight, and I guess she can explain that to you all.
Yeah, I was just wondering where in the commercial district it was going.
She had indicated Southern Shores Crossing. If that's still the case, I'm not sure.
Nice.
Would you like to hear from the applicant?
Only if she wants to.
She does apparently. Smith, the floor is yours.
Hi, thank you.
Hi, good
I'm
evening.
Mila Smith. Appreciate you letting me speak tonight. I just have a brief statement that I've written out. Since I was here last for the planning board meeting, my circumstances at Atlanta Dance have actually changed, and we feel it's the best option for us right now to stay where we are. I still wanted to come here tonight to encourage you to pass this amendment on behalf of other businesses that are like mine that could potentially run out of Southern Shores. It's my opinion that these cater to locals and offer a healthy outlet to children as well as adults. I can only see a benefit to the town and to the locals that reside here. Dance classes, karate are all for young people, as well as group fitness and yoga for adults. It can only enrich the lives of our local community. What's being taught in these classes are life lessons that will carry these students through to confidence, perseverance, and creative skills in the real world. It also teaches children responsibility, respect, and keeps them active and healthy in a really good way. For adults, the access to group fitness, yoga, and Pilates can only aid in their physical and mental well-being. These are all wholesome activities, and I can't see anyone having any issue or objecting with that. So even though Atlanta Dance will not be your neighbors in Southern Shores, please consider the other potential tenants that would call Southern Shores their home and prosper here. I'd also like to say thank you to everyone who's been so helpful in this process to me. Everyone at the town has been very supportive and encouraging. I'm thankful for their help along the way. I've never done anything like this before, and I'm a little out of my element. It's a bit nerve-wracking. It has been a lot at times, but I thought it was important for our local families for me to see it all the way through to the end. Thank you for your time. If you have any questions, I can try to answer them.
Thank you very
Nope,
much.
nope, thank you.
Is there anything that would make you consider relocating to Southern Shores?
The space that we had our hearts set on, it fell through. So it was leased before we could get this passed. So we're going to stay where we are for now. Maybe in the future, though.
Yeah, don't forget us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
No one has signed up for public comment. Is there anyone here that wishes to speak? Hearing none, I'll close the hearing at this time.
Thank you, Philip. Council, anybody want to do any further discussion, or can we entertain a motion?
Go for it, Mark. I have no problem adding it as a use. I think it would be a positive thing for young families and everybody else.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a nice business to attract to Southern Shores and a good use of some of our commercial space.
Yeah, some
so
space
I'm all
that's out
for it.
there.
Mhm. Okay.
In fact, I'll make the motion. if you're
Okay.
waiting for- Okay, I move that we approve ZTA-22-09 as recommended by our town staff and the planning board.
Very good. Have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Got a second? Any further discussion? I agree with everything that was said. It would be a great
Great.
addition to our commercial program. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, council, very much. Thank you for all your hard work. Sorry,
Yes. Thank you.
the process was longer than as long as it took. All right, next on our agenda is discussion of potential crosswalk at 10th Avenue. Cliff, you're going to lead us through this, I think.
This has been a work in progress, long time coming, and proof that the wheels of government move slow. If you remember last year, the town of Duck did a crosswalk study. It was done by a safety traffic engineer out of Raleigh, along with a consultant with PHP Engineering. They kind of, as a courtesy to us, they did a kind of a cursory review of the crosswalks that we have here in town. And what the Raleigh office came back was a recommendation for that we should consider potential crosswalks in other locations than we have. That was communicated and discussed with the Division I traffic engineers. And what they've said is that they're in agreement with one additional crosswalk on NC-12 because of the local considerations, traffic, other things. I guess that decision gets made closer to the division level than it does at the Raleigh office. So staff's recommending, we have option here between 9th and 10th Avenue to add a crosswalk. Staff's recommending that you put one at 10th Avenue, partly because of location, proximity. I mean, it's same reasons I'm going to give a recommendation for 10th. You might be able to make the argument for 9th, but we feel like the proximity from 9th to Hillcrest is a little bit further. Is a little bit closer than it is for 10th to a crosswalk. There's two easements that on the cul-de-sacs at 9th and 10th Avenue. Looking into that, it seems that the traffic from Soundview, Sea Oats uses the 10th Avenue cul-de-sac easement maybe more so than the 9th Avenue. So we're recommending that crosswalk be put in at 10th. DOT will put down the thermoplastic. They'll put down the signs. They'll do that, but ordinarily DOT won't pay for the overhead lights. DOT will do that if it's at a signalized traffic light. And so we have some of those, but, ideally we could put one at both. Ideally, DOT would pay for the lights and pay for it all. But we're kind of at a one or the other here. So that's simply what we're recommending. We don't need a budget amendment for this. The solar lights are something I think, they're not expensive. They're under $4,000. I think it's something that we'll be able to absorb in our budget. We don't need to do a budget amendment for that. But I did just want to say, we're looking at those alternatives to those lights, solar lights. Obviously, they're ideal. We prefer those, but we're having some reliability issues, and there may be a less aesthetically pleasing traditional option. But for now, it's what we've got. And it takes a while to get the parts in for those replacements when they go down, supply chain issues. So we're going to try and order a bunch of those lights and get them here. So when they go out, we've got them. We don't have to order them and wait on them. So
So why is it one or the other?
DOT
Do
won't.
we have to have a DOT to put a crosswalk across? Is that what it
Yeah,
is?
yes, sir. The DOT has to approve it. Not, the reason given is it's some point too much is too many is not a good thing. That's been I'm sure people have stood here before and said, they don't want to add more. They don't want to add more, but we keep adding more. And eventually I think we'll probably see one at night. We'll probably see one in other locations, maybe.
So there's an opportunity then to ask DOT to do a study again?
If the council
If
so.
the council wants to do that? Okay.
Yeah, and I think part of this is, the lowering the speed limit.
Yeah.
Kind of maybe open the door. But it's a work. I mean, like I said, it takes time, and this is what we've got now.
So we would put signs up saying that people got to stop for the crosswalk too?
Yes, sir.
The other day I was crossing, I counted 7 cars before they didn't stop. That's not your problem. People
Could be.
People don't pay attention.
No.
They just don't. So that was at the Ocean View crosswalk. It's just amazing. So, and it was the locals who stopped, not our guests. Okay.
Any questions for Cliff?
Yeah, there'll be two lights there like we have on all the other crosswalks,
sir.
one on each side.
That's right.
Okay.
And you're ordering a bunch of lights.
Well, we're
In
looking for all, yeah.
Well,
Yes,
yeah,
sir.
Didn't we
We've
have
got
to,
several that are down that need to be fixed.
yeah, didn't we have to replace some? Because I'd heard about where some were out.
Yeah, some are out.
Some have been replaced and we're still working. I mean, the police chief had his guys go through and kind of do an inventory, and we've got some that are on all the time, some that are fluttering. So we recognize that that's something we got to fix and address.
I think adding another crosswalk between the two lights makes a lot of sense.
Oh, I do
The debate is 9th and 10th. We've had a lot of citizen advocacy
Yeah.
for 10th. It's more
Yeah.
centrally located between the locations. So I don't have an
That's
issue
what I
with
was
10th.
thinking, we've had more people from 10th requesting than we have from 9th.
Yeah.
And there is that, I did go look at that path through there, and it looks like it's well used.
Certainly looks like it from the aerial photo. It shows up. So, yeah, I think 10th Avenue makes the most sense, and it's what's being recommended. And ultimately, it'd be nice to have, the paths on both sides of the road of NC 12, the whole way from the south end of town to the north end of town, which is something that this council has recognized and hope to get a tourism grant to do a chunk of that.
That's right.
And I hope we can think about doing more chunks, because we'll have to do it,
And do it in
piece by
piece.
piece. But it's definitely something that we hear from folks here. They would like some more paths out there on 12, and they want a safe way to get across the road to go to the beach, which I don't think anybody's going to argue with that. So if we're finished with the discussion, I would love to entertain a motion. Or do we need a motion? What do you need?
There's
Yes,
expense
please.
involved.
Yeah.
Just a motion to, in agreement with DOT, request to put a crosswalk up at 10th Avenue. I think I wrote it better than I said
Yeah,
it.
Tuesday, no public hearing on
Oh,
item 9?
I should have done that. I should, because I was going to do that and then I got distracted. Thank you, Stacy. I'm happy to entertain anybody who wants to talk about the crosswalk at 10th Avenue versus 9th Avenue. Even though it's not an official public comment period, go for it.
Thank you, Your Honor. I'm Mark LeBlanc.
Your Honor.
On
That's
I
nine.
got
funny.
two
What's
Your
that?
Honors up here.
That's actually.
Oh,
the only
I
Your Honor.
recognize Your Honor Emeritus, Your Honor.
It's okay. Happy to share.
We would speak in opposition to putting the crosswalk on 10th Avenue. 11th Avenue is twice as long as 10th Avenue, and it cuts into Coates Lane, and therefore the number of people coming down the street, given the way it's designed, will be twice as much, or a lot more than will be coming down 10th Avenue. There is also no shoulder between, on the west side, between 11th and 10th. And therefore, the people who will want to access that crosswalk will be forced to walk along the shoulder, of which there's basically none. Have I missed anything?
I don't understand why 10th was chosen when you have a busy road and more houses and more people coming down from 11th Street. There's a whole lot more houses. So it felt like all these people are going to be forced to walk dangerously on the road. I think is it just because we weren't here a year ago, whenever, but maybe it's just there are people that live on Coates on that pathway or something that goes through the end of the, that want this, like people on 11th aren't clamoring for, so they've got to, okay. Just doesn't seem like there's that many houses on the other side of 10.
It's not just that, and there's been no request for one at 11th.
No requests has come in. And there are
Yes.
people who live
Soundview, North Dune.
up there on the
live everywhere.
dunes that don't live on 10th, but they're up there on the dunes. If they want to walk to the beach, they use that connector path that gets them to the cul-de-sac on 10th. And then, so that's who we have heard from. In addition to people that, you're right, I don't disagree with your comments about more houses and that sort of thing.
It is.
It's sort of a-
Pull out of 10th and then 10th. It is
And-
tough to see traffic coming from either direction because of that curve.
Sure.
So I also thought safety-wise, it didn't seem to be a safer place. I mean, it doesn't matter to me, I'm Oceanside, but I just feel like.
Okay.
I thought it was odd that 10th was chosen rather than more houses.
Yeah.
So the
Yeah.
immediate request for 9th and 10th, and 9th is
So-
close proximity to Hillcrest, and
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the 9th I think has a similar easement through the
Yeah,
cul-de-sac.
I don't
It's just
think
not
it-
as used
I
as the
don't
one
think
at
it's
10th.
used as much.
Well, we oppose it.
Okay. Thank
For
you.
all, everything I said and her too.
Understood. Thanks. Anyone else want to speak
Tony.
before the public comment period? No?
I
Okay.
don't think there's any.
Well, you'll get another chance. So wrapping up, we are entertaining a motion to approve the installation of crosswalk at 10th Avenue by NCDOT and town expense not to exceed $4,000 to install the overhead solar lights. Do I have a motion and a second?
I'll second it.
Okay. So we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Now we have
General public
the
comment.
official general public comment. So anyone else? No one signed up, which that's not the case. Yes, Tony, please come up. Tell us who you are.
Yeah, it's Tony DiBernardo on 9th Avenue. I'm not going to talk about the 9th or the 10th aspect of it. But what I do have a concern about, and Lorelei and I have sent emails for the last 6 years to the town with 3 different groups of council members up there. I'd say there was 12 different people. We've gotten responses from 2 through all those times. And what it was is that the footpath on Duck Road is atrocious. And I know you're looking at doing another footpath on the west side of along Duck, but I think infrastructure-wise, you have to start looking at what we currently have and keeping up what we have. And it's really in bad condition. And it was always, if you look at the old cartoon, you're too young. The young one up there probably don't remember, but in Looney Tunes, they said, which way did they go? They went that way. And that was the response I was getting a lot of times. Matt finally found out that the town of Southern Shores, rather than the North Carolina DOT, is responsible for that road. And I appreciate you. You're the first one in 6 years.
Cliff deserves a lot.
Yeah. And Cliff did, and Cliff is the only one that's ever responded and fixed a portion of the road.
Thought we did, yeah.
Yeah, but that road, if you go up and look on 11th, going towards 10th, if you look at 13th coming into the town, if you look at Hickory, if a road could have varicose veins, our road, that footpath has varicose veins, let me tell you. If you ride a bike, it's constant bumping, and it's really a mess. It goes from 3 foot to 4 foot at times, 4 foot back to 3 foot. Right now, you can't even see on 11th all the problems with the road because it's covered with so much sand. It's just not maintained. And really, I think it's time to look into considering that there are places that you have to fix. You go from 13th into Duck, and the roads are perfect. The footpath is like perfect. So how come Duck, you just cross the road over 13th and it's fine. And then you come back and it's like, it's bumpy. There's no continuity to width. It's really a mess. And I think it's something to look into. Okay. So that's all. I just thought I'd bring it to your attention because I know you're considering doing another footpath. How about maintaining our current footpaths also? And maybe put it in the budget, even if with the new one coming, for future budget for maintenance. You have to put maintenance in your budget for these items. Thank you.
Thanks, Tony.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Seeing no one, move on to council business, council comments. We'll randomly start with Leo.
Well, I'll give you an update on the tourism board. We did meet in August. Our occupancy collections for the month of June were up 7%. Current year to date, they're up 5.19%. But then, as I always go back, or they do too, to June of 2019 versus June of this year, we're up 34%. So we're still getting people coming in. Meals collections, June was up 1.2%. Current year to date's up 5% in spite of the issues they're having. And again, when you make that same comparison, June of 19 to June of this year, it's up 25%. I don't know if you'd seen the articles that may have been in between the Voice and the Coastland Times, but this is North Carolina. Visitor spending increased 45%. That's 21 over 20. So that's pretty good. Visitor spending was 79 million a day in 21 statewide. Now here locally, Dare County, believe it or not, out of the 100 counties, we rank 4th. And we're behind, of course, Mecklenburg, which is Charlotte. And believe it or not, Buncombe replaced Wake. So Wake's now 3rd and we're 4th. And that adds up to, for us, about additional 12, a little over almost 13,000 additional jobs that are related to the tourism business. And as well, another number that hits all of us in the pocketbook is that number keeps our tax dollars down. Otherwise, we'd be paying about almost $4,000 more a year per person in taxes. So in spite of us not always liking our visitors, they do bring some money to us, so which allows us maybe to live here. So anyhow, that's the report there. And we're doing well. I've got a tourism board meeting on the 15th, so we'll see what else we'll be looking at. That's my report.
Thanks, Leo. Mark?
Cliff, how long are we gonna have the barriers on the street? How many more weeks?
This past weekend was the last weekend.
That's last weekend.
Yes,
Okay.
sir.
Wasn't sure. I'm good.
Okay. Matt?
Man, a few words.
Paul?
I'm good, thank you.
Just real quick, thanks, everyone. Our next meeting is a council workshop meeting scheduled for Tuesday, September the 20th at 9 a.m. And we hope to have an update from staff about the Kimley Horn report. And we also are going to talk about budget issues. So that was a timely comment there, Mr. DiBernardo. So that's again, Tuesday, September 20th, 9 a.m. workshop meeting. And though I would like to say that we're going to have another mayor's chat. That is going to be in October, on October 19th, which is a Wednesday at 4 p.m. And that's everything I have. So I would love to entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Thank you, everyone.